This is the Lakin Chronicles Road to Recovery podcast with addiction specialist Dr. Greg Lakin. Real people, real stories, real addiction, and real recovery journeys. The road to recovery starts now.
Hey, Dr. Lakin here. I have another couple that has unselfishly agreed to tell us their story a little bit in hopes that it will help others. They can tell you the struggles of addiction, and they can tell you what helps them and what makes them regress. And so both are just starting a program again, and they've been through programs separately before. But let's just hear their story. We have Ricardo and Heather. They have a relationship, but their addiction started even before that. But Ricardo, why don't you just start from the beginning and tell us how the addiction got started and what the addiction is to, and then how it progressed.
Okay. I'd have to say it was when my parents got a divorce when I was about 11. It was the first time I ever used because it was kind of a traumatized. I grew up in a very Brady Bunch kind of house. It was kind of perfect, and there wasn't no chaos, nothing, and everything had its place. And my dad, he provided for us, and they got into a fight, and I've never seen that before, so it was kind of traumatized. It kind of threw me off. Mm-hmm. So I remember the next day I went to hang out with my friend, and I just started smoking weed, and I don't know why. I don't know why I felt like that was the right thing to do or something, but I think that laid the foundation for how I deal with things I didn't want to deal with. I guess
So you learned early on how to escape.
Yeah.
How you were feeling at that time.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it, man. I wish I could go back and change that, but because that has affected my life so much.
And at that age you have no life experiences. You don't know necessarily what you're doing, and then it progressed from weed to.
Yeah. Well, the weed, it lasted quite a while, until my dad caught me, and he told me he was going to start UAing me, and he told me that if he caught me with any, I would be grounded for months, and I was trying to do good, not get grounded, and get my grades back up, so I quit doing weed just long enough, just to do pills, actually.
Yeah.
And this was in high school. I think I was like a junior in high school, just popping lower tabs and oxys and Valiums just because I could get them. And
then what did that do for you? I mean, some people do it for euphoria. Some people think it makes them feel more normal, or it certainly calms them down for a little while. But it starts a.
I think my mom, she kept telling me, she was like, I think you're trying to mask, or you're trying to, is a symptom, or you're trying to, and I think it was my social anxiety and depression that I didn't know I had. I didn't understand it. I thought that was just life and you were just supposed to deal with it, and I know now that it was actually something much deeper, possibly a mental disorder of some kind, or a chemical imbalance. And if I would have known that a long time ago, that would have saved me a lot of headache and a lot of trouble, because it took me, actually, I think you were the one who really pointed something out, and I took that medication and my whole outlook changed.
Right, we started you on an SSRI,
yeah.
Something to get your serotonin back up and stabilize your mood, basically.
Yeah.
And so you're right, but when you progressed when you were taking pills and they were mostly opioids, and then you got into other stuff as well. I mean, you're in that world now,
yeah.
I suppose. So when you were at your worst, what were you taking?
I think I was taking about 160 milligrams of Oxycontin a day. It was my highest.
Yeah. And how were you taking it?
Intravenously. I was mixing it also with meth at the time. I was speedballing it, and I really liked that combination for some reason. It's it's dangerous. It's not good, and I honestly I think it's a blessing that you can't get Oxycontins that you can shoot up nowadays. I mean,
Right.
That's a blessing for me, because I probably would have overdose if if I could still get those things.
Right. Well, now they got the carfentanil laced counterfeit pills that look just like oxys or oxycodone, and people are dying. And so you probably, I don't know if you have friends that have done that, but or lost some friends. But certainly, I appreciate the renewed effort. And so you did good for a while.
Yes.
Basically, we put you on.
I was on Suboxone. I think it was. I know this is a long time. I think 4 or 5 years I was on Suboxone. It's about that long. I didn't really notice how good and how much better my life had gotten until I lost it. And when I lost it, like, I realized, I was like, I had a pretty good life. But to me, it was, we lost our apartment, we lost our animals, everything we owned, literally just gone. Like, and it's almost like overnight, it just disappeared. It's hard to explain, but...
Well, you had a habit. I mean, and I don't know how much you had to spend for that, but I'm sure it took everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't pay rent. I was trying to shoot up heroin and keep up with my meth habit. Yeah. And those are two habits that are very expensive.
Yeah.
What kind of money you're looking at? What kind of money did you spend during that time?
Well, I mean, there was times that I would spend my whole check, and sometimes my check would be, $400, $500,
wow.
And literally, I mean, like my whole check, and I'd be broke the next day.
And you were doing so good there for a while. I mean, we did Suboxone, we had SSRI, your job. I mean, you were working well. I mean, you had a stable job. You seemed very happy, and you talked about a relationship you had that you were very happy about as well, right? Yeah. I didn't correlate the two, but I mean, Heather and I had met before as well, and I didn't even know you two were together until I didn't assimilate until later. But so now, really, I mean, you got track marks again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, scores, no scores.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to try this again, right? I mean, today, as of today, we're going to get on the Suboxone again. Hopefully you guys have a place you can stay at that's a good place, and get away from those triggers. And you tell me what your triggers are.
Well, I think anytime relationships are a big one, and I know that I guess a lot of people would say that an addict shouldn't be with another addict, but I don't think I could be with what I would call a square or normal person. And I'm not disrespecting them in any way, as in, like, I just don't think they could ever understand me. And I know they could never relate with me on that level in so many ways. And so there's like a gap or a wall that would never be able to span with them, for one. And then two, like, they just wouldn't put up with a lot of things that I do. Whereas an addict would. They would understand and be able to relate to a lot of that. And I'm not saying, I know that people are scared that they'll relapse together and they'll just be worse off, but that depends on a lot of factors. And honestly, I mean, they can be bad for each other, but they can be good for each other too. She can be my motivation, she can be my downfall, but it's the same for her as well, Right. And I want to be her motivation. I want to be her step up, not down.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I appreciate it. And you even told me one time that if she wanted to go shoot up or something, you would actually shoot her up for her because you were afraid that she would be I mean, at that time, and that's all right. I mean, at that time you thought it was a safer environment for her to be with you and getting high versus God knows where else, or when you're not there. And I appreciate. I mean, you're so intelligent, and you have. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate, and part of it is I want us to follow you, and it puts more pressure on you, perhaps, and maybe more leverage to actually do well. And I agree with you. I think couples, the right spouse or couple or girlfriend or boyfriend will make you. They will either make you or break you, and you guys can support each other when one's weak, or you can take one down. Sure. So I mean, if this is a healthy relationship, we'll find out. We'll find out, and that's good. I appreciate that. Yeah. Heather.
Yes. An addict is an addict. Relapse is always You know, whether you're with a normal person or another addict, there's always the chance for a relapse. So just because two addicts are together doesn't mean that they're going to keep relapsing.
Right. No. And I've told Ricky before, if we can stabilize your mood, you know, and get you out of that fight or flight, get you out of that primitive part of your brain that's running the show with regard to it only cares about the next 10 minutes. It doesn't care about tomorrow. It doesn't, you know, and that's why you don't feel in control. But once we stabilize your mood for a while, you know, higher level thinking brain part starts to kick in, and you will start to feel back in control. And you will start to look at the future, and you will start to love again. Higher level thinking stuff comes back online once you're out of that crisis mode. But Heather, I mean, yours was probably medical when you first got started on pills, right? Pain pills?
I had surgeries. I had a bladder disease, and I was pregnant with Aiden, actually my third child, when I got first put on pain pills for the last trimester. And then I had a hysterectomy a month after having her, and then a year later I had surgery. I had interstitial cystitis I was diagnosed with, and I had a lot of bladder pain, and you know, they tried the medication. There really wasn't a medication for it. There was one that, you know, you could be, but you had to be on it for 6 months to a year to even know if it was going to work. And there was no, guarantee that it was going to work. And it didn't work for me. So basically, I was told I was going to be on pain management for the rest of my life. And that's kind of what started me on opiates. And the summer before I moved to Wichita, before I started seeing you, was when I had that surgery, and they had me on fentanyl patches. And so, you know, I struggled coming off of those, and then I came to see you, and I was on, you know, I think, was it oxycodone maybe, or Vicoprofen, something, but it wasn't helping. So you put me on methadone for the first time, and I didn't like the way it made me feel. I was like awake 1 minute, asleep the next minute, didn't even know I'd fallen asleep, and you know, I'd be waking up, and you know, I couldn't take care of my kids that way. So it was either treat my bladder pain or be a mom to my kids, and I chose to be a mom to my kids. So my kids were going to Dodge for the summer to visit grandparents. So I was like, that's a perfect time to come off my pain pills. And I should have came to you, but I didn't realize how dangerous necessarily it was quitting taking them.
And we're talking probably 15 years ago, at least, probably, because that was back in
2005, 2006. I moved to Wichita in 2005, summer, September 2005. Yeah, so that's...
And that was back in the day where, I mean, it was kind of chronic pain management with episodic pain. And so we were trying to figure out, interstitial cystitis is certainly a tough one.
Well, you know, a lot of doctors really didn't want to treat it. They didn't, I don't want to say they didn't necessarily believe in it, but it was just like nobody really they didn't know how to treat me, and so they didn't want to deal with me. You know, I had a doctor, I probably went to every urologist here in Wichita before I came to you. I was frustrated, and I had a doctor that I went to. He literally walked into the room, opened my file. He said, you've been on this, this, and this. You tried this, this, and this. He's like, well, there's nothing I can do for you. Shut the file, and like walked out. And I'm just like, okay, like,
so much for
what am I supposed to do with that? Like, thanks. And I'm paying for this doctor's appointment. And luckily I had insurance, but I still had, you know, to pay. I didn't want to be on pain meds, but I didn't. I come from a long line of addicts. You know, I know what was in my blood. My biological parents both were addicts. You know, my mom was 14 when she became pregnant with me, 15 when she had me, did acid when she was pregnant with me, drank when she, you know, was pregnant with me. I mean, I was probably born an addict. I was probably born addicted to God knows what. And alcohol, you know, I have fetal alcohol syndrome. You can't really tell it in me as much, thankfully, but so I started my life as an addict.
You weren't dealt a very good hand to start off with.
I've had a very traumatic life. Sorry.
No, I appreciate
I'm very
you telling your
emotional.
story.
It's been a hard 11 to 10, 11 months. It just sucks. And like this.
And you're not in a good place right now.
No, I'm not in a good place
You
at
have been before. You know you can do this.
I know I can.
I remember when you first came, you were a lifeguard, and
I get my life together, and then it falls apart, and then I get my life together, and then it falls apart, I get my life together. I'm tired of the roller coaster. I'm tired.
and then, I mean, so the children aren't with you anymore, or are they? They're not. Well, let's work on that after we work on everything else. Let's do that. What happened with that?
I get to see my kids now, talk to my kids now. I mean, that's a huge plus, but what turned me to meth and heroin, and I tried coke and anything else. I didn't care. I was doing drugs. Might as well do everything, try everything. I didn't become an addict until I was 33 years old. My kids got taken from me, and my kids were my entire world. You know, I was a mom one day, and then I wasn't. My generation's the generation where our parents were raising our kids,
Right.
you know, and 'cause, you know, we want a social life, we want to party, we're not ready to grow up, and our parents, you know, love being grandparents. So, but my foster parents, I grew up in foster care. They never adopted me, but they were my mom and dad too. So I have two moms, I have two dads. And when I became pregnant with my son, I was 19, had him when I was 20. No, I had him when I was 20. Or, I'm sorry, I'm tired. I've been up for, 4 days, so you're getting to see the effects of that.
I get it. I get it.
So, and I'm emotional, and I got a lot of shit going on right now.
This is like a new beginning. I know it.
Sure.
I mean, you're going to look back on this, and you're going to say,
If people want to hear my story, then they need to see the good, bad, the ugly, all of it. Because, this is real life, you know. It's not just TV, you know, where they show, the drug things, where they follow
Intervention and all
people.
these-
This is real life. This is real shit. You know, you're getting to see, you know, what the effects are, everything. I mean, look at my face. I am an emotional picker, too. I stopped picking for a very long time. I'm pissed off at myself again because I started it up, but I can't handle, you know, the emotional shit going on. So if I'm standing in the bathroom picking at my face, I don't have to face anything. I don't have to, you know, do anything. I don't have to. I'm just in my own little world. I want people to leave me alone, and I'm pissed off at myself too because I thought I was done with that. But also at the same time, I think it's kind of a self-sabotage. And, you know, when I was with Martin, he used to get really pissed off at me and tell me how ugly I was. But you know, with him, you know the problems and everything, but I always felt like a trophy wife, a trophy girlfriend, and, you know, he liked to show me off. So, yeah, I'm ugly now. What, you know, you can't show me off anymore. You know, and now Ricky, too, you know, he's just like, babe, he's like, we fight about it. But, yeah, I think it reminds me of, the things Martin used to say to me, and it just, I get pissed and I go off on him, and I don't know. I've got all kinds of, but this too, part of it. So,
Well, you got track marks, right?
Yeah.
This
do.
is more from
I have
methamphetamine.
scars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially right
Old
there.
and new scars. Yeah. So that was an abscess.
That was an abscess from heroin from
Yeah.
the years ago,
Yeah.
and that's that scar. So,
Right.
but you can see,
And it's hard to find a vein now, I imagine. Huh?
Oh yeah, very
Yeah.
hard.
You're shooting where else? Do you shoot?
Just on my arms.
Just on your arms?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think they're gonna do real well, both of them, because both people here have said they're accountable.
Yeah.
They're not saying, well, this person. Say, hey, you know what? Buck
Well,
stops here.
And now they can honestly go back and
Now you
watch
go
their
back and
video
watch
and
it
say,
and
hey, if
grow.
because you've been through this before, and I know, and you talk about the frustration, and you're so pissed at yourself for relapse, and you talk about that, and of course it takes a couple times where it's like you feel like I can't do it. Obviously, it's not. You know, you think you're not strong enough. Every time you try, you fail, and pretty soon you almost give up.
Yep.
And that is.
it's a whole range of emotions. Some days, you know, like I'm going to go to treatment, you know, I can do this, I can, you know, and then other days you just bawl and because you're mad at yourself because you've been here before and you swore you weren't going to do it and you go through the withdrawals and the, you know, the depression and then you're just roller coaster of emotions and it's just, it runs, you know, you ragged. And when you have two of you who are, you know, our relationship, he's the first healthy relationship I've had, I think, ever. You know, first 4.5 years of our relationship were healthy, and our families liked the other one. You know, I wasn't used to that. My family, my mom took to him and liked him. Like, I'm like, if Claudia likes you, that's a good thing, you know. We never fought. We never, and I did this relationship right after it. I was with my daughter's dad, Aiden, for 13 and a half. I was with Martin for 13 and a half years. It took a lot for me to leave him, and I went to inpatient treatment at Valley Hope in 2012.
Right.
Got out that October, was clean and sober for about 5.5 months, and then started back again in January, February 2013. Went back to inpatient treatment April of 2013. I'm a very honest person. I'm honest about my using. I'm honest about, I don't say that I don't tell white lies, like when I call into work and I don't feel good, but really I'm playing hooky. But for them, I just don't see the reason to lie. And, you know, like even this last time when my mom and everybody asked me, like, Heather, you know, are you, well, yeah, I'm using, you know, and I don't have to tell anybody that, but like I don't lie about the drugs I use. I don't lie about the way that I use them. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it either. You know, I have my reasons for doing what I do. I don't care if anybody understands it, you know, but it's nobody's business. So at Valley Hope, you know, I was straight up like, I made a lot of people mad, and as a matter of fact, I didn't even have a hot seat because I think they knew my hot seat was going to be brutal because I wasn't there necessarily to get clean and sober. I just wanted off the needle. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm like, I'll probably get out of here and leave if I can stick to smoking. And I do that to myself. Okay, if I can just stick to smoking or snorting, then, you know, and I can function and I can, it's just the needle. It's the needle that, you know, but that's not true. That's just bargaining with myself so I have an excuse, you know, to use. In January, February 2013, when I relapsed, I smoked for a week and then I was like, screw this. I relapsed. I might as well shoot up again, you know, and off I went again. When I got out of Valley Hope at May, I was clean and sober for 2 weeks, and I was off and running again. July 3rd, I was going down to Oklahoma to see my dad. I had a kidney stone, and I was going to Valley Hope in Oklahoma for a third time. But, you know, we want to be clean and sober. We really do, addicts. I think people, you know, like look at us that like they don't think that we do, but really we do. You know, it's addiction for a reason. And, you know, a lot of us have traumas, and a lot of us, you know, we do have mental disorders. And I hate that word because it sounds like, you know, there's something wrong with us. And like, but you know, whether it's depression or bipolar or schizophrenia or, you know, drugs, we all have a chemical imbalance or, you know, chemical balance that makes us up. Drugs are going to affect us all differently because it messes with our chemicals. I don't like it when people say, you know, oh, they have schizophrenia, they have, because that's not
be a moral
it's not
compass
necessarily
issue.
schizophrenia or bipolar or whatever, but it's just drugs affect us, you know, all differently. It makes us do different things, you know, it makes us think different things. It makes us, you know, we're not dumb, we're aware of the stupid ass shit we do, you know, with the tweaking, the picking, and the one thing, like, I have a very dark sense of humor, and the way that I get better and deal with things is I can joke about my addiction, and I can, you know, I can laugh at myself when, I tweak out the windows, you know, everybody's carpet pick, people,
Tinfoil.
you know, but when you can literally laugh at yourself, I mean, you know, but that's how I cope
Right.
with it, you know
Right.
what I mean? But I don't know, it's been a struggle for me. I knew what I came from. I, you know, didn't want to try drugs or do drugs. I was in my biological family, I was the one who beat the odds because, you know, everybody did drugs, everybody drank, and I didn't. But
And you were doing so good there for a while. You had a job for many years.
yeah, I did.
And
I had a stable job. This last time I got clean and sober, it wasn't treatment. I went to jail for 75 days, and then over 4 counties. I had 4 warrants. I was wanted in Kansas in 4 different counties. The fugitive recovery team showed up in Oklahoma, swooped me up when I was coming out of the hospital from being treated for my kidney stone, and brought me back to Kansas. And it's not that I was on the run technically, but I wanted to get clean and sober before I went to jail. I would, when we get clean and sober, we start cleaning up our life and,
Right.
doing those things. I wanted to do that before I went back and faced those warrants because I thought I was looking at 1 to 2 years of jail. And the worst place to be going through withdrawal is jail. I've been there, and they don't care. They just don't. So I wanted to get clean and sober again, and then I was going to go back to Kansas and face the music and take care of my warrants, but that's not the way it worked. God had different plans. Heather, you've been to treatment this many
Right.
times. That didn't work. I'm going to put you in jail this time, but you know what? That's what worked. When I got out of jail after 75 days, I had 60 days of house arrest to do still, so I did 135 days total. I had 3 probation officers.
And they're checking your urine
and
and
3
they're making
counties.
sure. Yeah.
Yes. I was trying to get out of the relationship with my daughter's dad because it was very toxic. And if I didn't, I was going to go back to using again. And I really wanted to be clean and sober. I had 75 days. I was ready to do something different. I was ready to change my life. So I had to report to probation in Wichita because that's, where I was living. And I asked my probation officer if they could please make me living in a sober living house part of my probation because my daughter's dad didn't support it. He didn't want me going, and because if I did, he couldn't control me.
Right.
And when I'm clean and sober, he can't control me either. So they made that a part of my probation requirement for me. So I was like, hey, I have to go live in sober living or I violate my probation. And that helped me a whole lot. I lived in sober living for 2.5 years. You have to go to so many meetings a week. That's where we met. We knew each other for a year before we started dating.
Oxford House.
We started out as friends. We started hanging out together, and this wasn't supposed to be a relationship.
Right.
I did me for a while after I didn't want a relationship with anybody. I had been in an abusive relationship since I was pretty much 18 years old. We got together when I was 38, and I wanted to make sure that I was healthy and, I could love myself before I got into a relationship with somebody else. And I did do me, and I loved it. But I wanted, it gets lonely, and I wanted somebody to hang out with, so I was like, hey, we started hanging out. He'd been chasing after me for a year, and for a whole year, and I kept telling him no, but then finally I was just like, you know what, I was like, let's just hang out, I said, but we put stipulations on it, and and I told him, if one gets feelings for the other, we need to let the other one know, because if one has feelings, one doesn't, then we need to break it off. And and I knew his reputation
We didn't think it was
before
gonna be
we got
serious
together,
at all.
but
Like,
he
we
was single,
had
he was,
no intention
and I
of
knew
it.
he didn't want a relationship with anybody either, so it was safe. And so I knew he wasn't going to get attached to me. I knew he wasn't going to fall in love with me. I knew he wasn't going to want a relationship, so it was safe. But we started hanging out, and we enjoyed each other's company, and it turned into a relationship. And
maybe a healthier one.
It was very healthy.
Because you said this relationship, you were bound and determined to do it on your own terms.
Yep.
Instead of the prior relationship, you were controlled.
I was very controlled.
And then what did that relationship look like? I mean, did he actually control you with drugs, or did he control you?
It was very. I mean, it wasn't healthy even from the beginning. But abusive relationships don't start off abusive, and that's what people need to understand. And I get so tired of people saying and hearing, well, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she? People have to understand they're very charming, they're very loving, they're very, if an abusive relationship started off abusive in the very beginning, a lot of women would have the courage to leave. They work on you, they, before you know what's happening, they chip at you away, chip at your self-esteem, little by little. And before you know it, like, they have you reduced down to thinking that you are worthless. You are, you can't find anybody else. You can't, and it's, you think you love that person, and it just went on for 13 and a half years. Well, I moved to Wichita in 2005. I was actually leaving him. I finally got the courage to leave. Well, he found out I was moving. So he decided he was moving with us. And so the first 6 months I was here, he had a job where they didn't have a position here, so he couldn't come with us. So he came here on the weekends, and then it continued. The kids got taken from us on December 4th of 2008.
From both of you?
Yeah, we were together. And
they were taken because why at that time?
They said that I was addicted to my pain pills, which I had been off of for 6 months. Took myself off of. Okay.
I remember that. Yeah.
Addict doesn't take themselves off of all the.
You thought you were doing everything right. You thought
I
you were
was
doing everything right, and it still didn't matter.
And then Martin and I had an incident where when I was taking him to work in the morning, he broke my nose. The kids were not with us. He went to work early in the morning. The kids were back at home with the babysitter. Well, his parents found out, called SRS on us, and of course they came out, investigated, closed the case due to unsubstantiated findings, whatever. But then they used that against me a whole year later to take my kids away. You can't do that. Like, you close that case due to unsubstantiated findings, you can't reopen that a year later. They said that my kids were scared, hiding in a cupboard, because they had witnessed it. The kids weren't even there. They were asleep, at home. So, it was absurd. And then truancy. My son had tubes in his ears twice. His ears started bleeding really bad, and for 2 months they kept putting him on antibiotics. I took him to different doctors, the ER. Nobody could tell us why his ear was bleeding, and so he missed school, a lot of school those 2 months. I would take him to school some days, and the days I did take him, the school would call me within an hour and be like, you need to come pick him up, his ear's bleeding, he can't be here. Finally took him to a doctor out of network in Hutchinson. His tube was embedded in his eardrum. So they pulled it out, and he was able to go back to school and everything. Well, the damage had already been done. The motion had already been,
So you're already under the microscope, basically, by different regulatory agencies or social service agencies.
My whole family, the grandparents, everybody knew when I went to Dodge that my kids were getting taken from me, but me. Nobody said anything to me because they thought I would take my kids and run. In that too.
Or relapse again. Honestly.
No, I wasn't on anything.
Right, yeah. There's always that concern, like, oh my God, this will.
Well, that hurts. My family, everybody just acted like everything was normal. December 4th, I went to pick my son up from school, and you know, it was just strange to me that he wasn't out there, you know. So I was like, went and parked and went inside, and I went into the office, and I had seen 2 police officers and another person, you know, standing off to the side, and I was like, I didn't think anything of it.
Right.
Then the secretaries kind of, you know, you could tell something was going on. So I walked up to the desk, and I was like, hey, do you know where, you know, my son is? And they were like, you need to talk to the principal. And I was like, okay. And so then I'm like, what the hell is going on? Well, then they called me back into the principal's office. It was the principal, the vice principal, 2 police officers, 2 people from the state.
In a smaller town.
No, that was here in Wichita.
Oh, that was it? Okay,
yeah, that
got
was
it.
here in
Okay.
Wichita. Telling me that I was deemed a danger to my kids, and that they had picked my kids up from school. They picked Austin and Aiden up that morning. Ashley, you knew, was sick
Right,
all the time
right.
because of her asthma and allergies, so she was at home that day. And
Yeah, I can't imagine a more traumatic experience than actually somebody taking your kids from you.
I was like, yeah, she's at home sick. And they were like, where's your home? Where's your address? And I had to give them my address. And I was like, I need to go call Martin and let him know that you guys are coming. I said, you can't just go take Ashlyn. You know, she has a breathing machine. You know, she's allergic to a lot of things. She's on several medications. It's not like you can just swoop in my home and take her. And they were like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, because they said I was going to tip him off and he was going to run away with Ashlyn. You already have 2 of my kids. Like, what's that going to do? You know, like that's going to, I wasn't threatening. I mean, I'm bawling, you know, like freaking out, but I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm not being aggressive. By this time, they had me out in the office again where parents are coming in and out, and the police officers handcuffed me and sat me there in the office in front of everybody. It's so embarrassing. And I sat there for 30 to 45 minutes, and, you know, the police officers, you know, you could tell they felt bad, and they even told me, they're like, we really didn't know what we were up here for. They said, we just got a call, you know, we had to come to the school. They said they'd never tell us that this is, you know, what it's for. Like, we're really sorry, we have to handcuff you, but it's part of procedure. And I'm just like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? You know, like, parents are just looking at me, you know.
So what happens after all that? I mean, how
we had to have supervised visitations with the kids. We didn't get to see the kids for 3-4 weeks. We had to go to court. I didn't start using drugs until 9 months after my kids got taken. Martin was cheating on me that night that I was at home by myself because he was off cheating on me. Like, I had nobody. My mom.
But at that time, you felt pretty much abandoned. I'm assuming.
I was. But you know what? I didn't use. I didn't. But yeah, I was alone. I went through that alone.
Was there a trigger, like you said, until 9 months after that? Was there another trigger?
Yeah, I told Martin if he didn't quit cheating on me that I was going to cheat on him. And I met somebody, and I actually didn't cheat on him. I left him. The guy that I left him for introduced me to meth. I smoked on a Thursday, August 24th, smoked on a Thursday. By Sunday night, midnight, I had a needle in my arm. That's all she wrote.
Yeah.
What
does meth do for you? What does it do for you?
It was an escape. I didn't have to think. I didn't have to feel. I didn't have to, it felt amazing. Like,
Energy.
It was...
endless energy. I guess
well, when I smoked that Thursday, like, I had a headache, a really bad headache, and like my headache like instantly went away, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, this shit's amazing. Where's it been all my life, you know? When I shot up, like, it was euphoria. It was, I didn't care. You could have sat there and, like, I don't know, I didn't care. It was, I mean, yeah. But the person that introduced me to the needle kept me up and didn't let me come down for almost a month and a half. When I would start coming down, he would shoot me back up and take me back up again. And I was so high that month and a half that like literally the walls were booming, the ceiling was booming, it was, but I wasn't sad. I was happy. I didn't, but then he took it away from me completely. And that crash, the depression, yeah, it's an escape, but eventually you're going to have to face that shit. And when you get off of it, the depression is...
And then nothing else is exciting in your life right after that.
Most
you go from...
here, and then, say Coke is here, and meth is way up here. And you got to get back down here, and then hopefully, if you're lucky, you get back up to normal.
Right. Your brain, it takes a while for your brain to reset. It's so used to full on...
You get cloudy, you
Such
get...
a big drop.
It's just... but also, too, like, I don't know, sometimes, like, you get a tolerance, you know what I mean? So you're constantly chasing that boom, boom, that euphoria, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But also that it just becomes your coping mechanism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then you're on the hunt all the time, whether it's opioids or methamphetamines. You're always on the hunt.
DTs.
Doc, isn't there I've heard of people that jog and they find that euphoria in an unrelated, not a drug atmosphere. Is there something, can that really happen?
You get dopamine surges from everything from skydiving to working out to even a good relationship. You get dopamine surges. But I mean, you can expect a 30% increase, 20%, but methamphetamines, 400% increase. 400% increase. So it totally rocks your brain. So the people that do methamphetamines, they don't care about the other stuff. They don't care necessarily. I mean, it seems a little blasé or anticlimactic, and women love it because it helps them stay nice and skinny and pretty for a while, but there's a price to pay. I like what you said when during relapsing, like you get better and then you think, I can handle it as long as I don't go IV, or I can handle it as long as it's just pills.
You bargain with yourself so you can keep using, like it's your excuse, it's your, and because I am that way, I still do that.
It steals your youth, though. I mean, and we kind of glorified it there in a way, but there has to be good to make you want to do it. But it literally steals your youth. Like it speeds up like your aging process probably by like 10, like 10 times, I would say. Like I notice my teeth, they're starting to chip. I know I'm starting to get gray hairs every now and again. I'm 34, and I don't heal. I don't bounce back like I used to. It's
like you're burning up like a supernova.
The further you get in your addiction too, though, you don't care.
You don't care. Yeah. And that's part of the addiction is you're only worried about right now.
Yeah.
That part of your brain, fight or flight's running the show. You're only worried about the next 10 minutes, the next day. You don't care about the future, and that's part of the judgment that goes away when we're
when I think about the future. It scares me. It overwhelms me. It I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
I just don't. I just want to think about the next 5 minutes.
Nope. Yeah. You're still in that fight or flight reactive world. It's just where we're at. Like even when everything's fine, it's not fine. Something's wrong. Yeah. And the neat thing about it is we have other testimonials and other people telling their story where they've gone through treatment. They're doing great. They got their kids back. They got their job. Is it exciting every day? No, but it's well worth it.
I miss our boring life.
Yes.
We were a boring. We were a boring couple.
I miss him.
Yeah.
We were a very boring couple. We liked to stay home, watch movies,
Play Xbox.
He would play Xbox,
or PlayStation.
And I would lay there and watch Netflix. But we spent time together. We went to our jobs. We came home. We were together in the evening, relaxing. But I miss that.
We're now homeless, no Xbox, no animals.
Yes.
Like we didn't know we were going to sleep.
What was the trigger the last time as a couple?
I'm an emotional user, okay? He brought it home. I don't blame him for my relapse. Our families, I think, blame each other. My family.
Okay.
Well, because he brought it home. So, Mom, if he wouldn't have brought it home, then you wouldn't have used it. So he tempted you. But I was just like...
It's my fault.
No, it's not your fault. Well, I'm a grown woman. I can make my own decisions. I could have flushed it. You shouldn't have, but...
It was
really,
her birthday,
mean,
and
he came. I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
He came home and he's like, babe, I got you a Christmas present. And, I had 5.5 years clean, and really,
Stupid.
I had got him clean and sober off of heroin. I got him clean and sober off of alcohol. So I really, he got clean for me. And I really wasn't expecting the meth. And but so I was like, okay. I thought it was like, I don't know, candy, jewelry, something. I don't know. So I was like, okay, what, babe? And he's like, you sure you want it? And I was like, yeah. So he pulls out this bag, and at first, like, I was just like, and I was like, is that really?
She's like, what is it?
It's like, what is that? And he's like, meth. And he's like, you don't have to use it. He's like, you can flush it. He's like, go flush it.
I went to the bathroom. I was like, I'll flush it right now. Just say it. And I know we're both addicts, and like it would have been hard, but I would have done it.
He would have if I would have asked him.
All she had to do was say it, but she was like, "No, let's hold on to it."
I can handle it this time. I know.
Well,
She didn't do it for like a whole week
I
after
did.
that.
really?
I held on to it for 5 freaking days. I put it up, I hid it, and
Yeah, hid it from me.
From him, and he
She
didn't.
had to.
He didn't
I
ask
would've
me
done
for
it
it
if I
at all. He told me to put it where he didn't know where
I
it
didn't
was,
wanna
which I
know
was
it.
going to anyway, because you got it for me as my Christmas present.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I did hide it from him because he had just gotten clean and sober off of alcohol. He's an addict, But and I wouldn't have been mad at him if he would have done it.
A little
but
more to that, though.
No, but I did.
As
I
in,
put it.
We were having some tough time because your daughter left.
That's what I'm getting into.
And
that.
I
I'm
was
getting
like,
ready to get into
Life
that.
was starting to get kind of like we were
Chaotic.
down in the dumps, and we were like, man, something's got to change.
I think part 2.
We were both struggling with
I
some
don't think
stuff.
he realized. He knew of my childhood. He knows I've had a traumatic life, but he didn't realize really what it was going to do to me. My anger issues. I'm an angry person. I've been an angry person my whole life, rightfully so. I've been through some major fucking shit. But, the first time I went to Valley Hope, they have these tests that you do when you first go in. They have these tests then when you leave. And, of course, there was a lot of anger, but when I went back in April and did the test again, Jenna, my counselor, she's like, Heather, I want you to look at both your tests. She's like, see your anger here? She's like, you've gotten more angry, more, this last time around, well, duh, I didn't deal with it. But when I got clean and sober that last time, I thought I had, he had never seen my anger. Like, I think part of it scares him because I can be a scary person he doesn't. Like,
my mom didn't teach me that because we didn't deal with it.
But he hasn't ever seen it either. And it was so nice because I would sit there and think, like, when was the last time I was really angry? Now, he's seen me mad, don't get me wrong, but he is the mellow chill part, and he and my sponsor Misty are the only 2 people on the face of this earth who have ever been able to actually talk me down when I get angry, and that shocked the shit out of me too, because I go from pissed off from 0 to 60 in less than 0.1 milliseconds, but he always had a way of mellowing me out, and so it was just nice to have that. We balanced each other, and he made me want to be a better person, and he made me want to. So I really thought I had the anger under control. I really thought that I had dealt with my issues and things, and we were happy, and we are in love, and we are. It just
took all that away.
I have an amazing relationship. He makes me want to be a better person. My kids were accepting of him. He's cool with my kids. He allows me to be me. He doesn't try to change me. I'm not he doesn't like to show me off. He loves me for what's inside, not just what's on the outside, and tells me I'm beautiful, makes me feel pretty. I don't look like that. I don't usually
we're gonna have we're gonna track your success.
Absolutely.
We're gonna follow
the
your
way
progress.
he looks at me. Just for the first time in my life, like I feel truly loved. You know what I mean? He doesn't try to control. Well, okay. He on the drugs now, yes he does. But when he's clean and sober, no, he doesn't try to control me. Like this is new to both of us.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
it's the reason why I'm still with him, because I said after my daughter's dad, I won't be in another abusive relationship, but it wasn't abusive for 4.5 years. It's the meth. The meth turns people into people that you say and do things you normally never would, you know, and I've told him he's a completely different person than the person that I fell in love with. And my daughter came down to visit, over the summer, and she's like, Mom, she's like, Ricky's not, I'm like, not Ricky. And she's like, yeah, she's like, I don't, like, Aiden struggles. When he got drunk last December, or I can't remember what it was, but Aiden saw a side of him that she had never seen, and it scared the shit out of her. But I was scared too. I thought he'd relapsed on heroin again.
Right.
Like it was, when he drinks, like he doesn't remember what he says, what he does. And
Well,
but it scared my daughter.
It was Christmas night. I blacked out, and
this was the time
scared
before
me
that.
night. My family was so upset with me that I haven't drank since then. I stopped.
I actually took a video of him and showed it to him, and the look on his face, like you could the disappointment,
because it wasn't me.
Because it wasn't him. But he has remorse, he has guilt, he has because we know that's
Right.
not him.
No, he's got a good heart.
Yeah, Ashlyn, my 18-year-old, I haven't seen her. I hadn't seen her in 9 years. Her dad got her and cut her off from everybody in my family. When she turned 18, she came home. The week after she turned 18, I was so excited. I was
big.
so, she moved in with us, but it was, there were problems. There were, we struggled, and it wasn't the happy reunion that
it wasn't that clean. And
no, it wasn't. Ricky, even he tried to be there for me the best way that he could. He stayed. There's times that he wanted to say something to Ash because he could see how hurt I was, but he didn't want to hurt me. He didn't want to run my daughter away, so he kept it to himself. Ash and I had a huge falling out, huge fight. It devastated me. It hurt. That's why I started using.
That was it. Okay.
This is why. This was why I relapsed.
Well, and
I'm not trying to blame that, but
it's
well,
true.
you're only as strong as your weakest moment, and so
I'm an emotional user, and I just got her back in my life, and I lost her again, and I just. So I was like, fuck it. I had meth. 5 days. I held on to it for 5 days.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, fuck this. I don't want to feel right now. I was like, babe. I was like, you want to do it? And I knew he'd say yes. He was like, yep. So in the bathroom we went, and and that's all she wrote.
Before I brought it home, though, I was at my work actually, and this is just spontaneous. Like this was not normal by any means. My coworker walked up to me, and I am a fiend. I straight up, I am an addict.
Yeah, he's a very
through and through.
definition of an
You
addict.
put something, you put a pizzle, which is a meth pizzle or meth pipe in front of me, loaded. Like I don't think I don't think an army
like an
can stop
opportunity for you.
that
Rather
pipe.
than,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's just
no.
I don't want to see it. I
shouldn't
can't. I can't make eye contact with that.
Right.
Out of sight, out of mind. I do pretty good actually. But as soon as I saw that, and he was like, "Hey, you want to hit this?" And I was like, you know what? Even though in my head I was like, "Stop."
Yeah.
Like turn around, walk away.
Yeah.
I was saying it I was screaming it in my
He's
head.
running right to it.
But I just saw my arm just reach out and grab that pipe, and
Yeah.
I just started, and I knew what was going to happen. I knew it.
They study the brain now, and they actually show that, the memories we have for drugs, if they're euphoric, if they're good, if they're linked to good stuff, it links it with strong feeling in our hypothalamus. It links it with strong. So when they talk about addiction, once an addict, always addict, they just mean it's linked to the emotional part of your brain, and it never forgets. It never does. Yeah. So the frontological part of your brain, it can forget. But the hypothalamus never forgets. So if you associate it with good stuff, you're going to go back to it. If you associate it with bad stuff, and that's really what we want to do, and we want to make that part of your brain calm down.
Retrain.
We want to make that part of the brain calm down, and it will. And then you'll start to feel back in control. When you felt all that anger, it was fear. It's always fear. Anger is always fear-based, but it's fear that you were losing control again over your own welfare. So,
one thing Ricky he notices about me, because I don't I've smoked weed, I've done edibles, but I don't like the feeling really of it, because I don't like the out of control feeling. I don't like the I don't really necessarily get drunk because I don't like, and he's just like, babe, he's like, you don't like not being in control, do you? And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't.
That's but being traumatized.
The fact that he's, but I like to control the things that I can control, I had 5.5 years clean and sober, and I always said that I would like to think if somebody put meth in front of me, the more clean time you get, I would be able to say no, I'd be able, but I live in reality, and I can say honestly, I didn't know. Well, meth was put in front of me. Yeah. Now we have that answer.
That's some of the problem with a patient. I mean, anybody can put in a sterile environment could get clean, but then you're right back into the same triggers, the same people, the same, So our plan going forward now, you're at your worst or pretty close to it, at least. But this time we're doing something different, right?
Bottom, it goes faster every time you relapse. You hit your bottom. You lose everything faster. We had an apartment. I got an apartment in my own name. Yeah, that was huge. I was so excited because they ran my credit. They did a background check. I was like, babe, I don't know, but I got approved, and that was huge. I didn't have to have Martin for that. I didn't have to have my parents for that. I didn't have to. I did that. I was so proud, and we paid our rent, we paid our bills. I was good at budgeting money. I didn't spend outside my means. I had to get an extra job, but we weren't well off. We lived paycheck to paycheck, but we weren't hurting. And and I would lay there. I have a relationship. I have my kids. I had Austin and Aiden, and then and then Ashy, and I had a job that I had for 5.5 years that I kept getting promoted through. I became a manager, and I loved my job so much, and
Heather, we're going to get back there. And that's why I want people to know that we're going to get back there. And we're going to get back there because we're going to do medication-assisted treatment, which is going to stop craving the withdrawals and help stabilize your mood. It's the long half-life and the stabilizing that helps get you out of that reactive fight or flight state all the time. You'll feel your brain start to shift. You'll feel, and then we're going to work on making sure if there's an anxiety disorder or anything else. And it's hard to diagnose that when you're in this world, the drug world. But once you get out, if there's an anxiety, a depression, or whatever, we will make sure that that's stabilized. We will. And then pretty soon we're going to have an update with both of you guys. We'll have an update. And you can talk about how things are going. Okay. And I anticipate that they'll be going quite well. And I anticipate that you'll start to feel like you're getting control back, that you're starting to think about the future, that your love is growing because it's higher level, stuff that kind of goes on the back burner. Yeah.
We're engaged.
Yeah. Well, now you're.
My engagement ring got pawned. That's how bad.
Yeah.
It's okay, babe.
I think a few of those rings are down there for
people
that.
need to know that, and it makes
that was
me
a big factor.
sick. But we had no food. I understood why he did it. Makes me sick, and I throw it in his face, and I use it against him just because we're chaotic.
Lashing out now.
The meth makes you crazy. It makes you, sometimes you don't even know why you're angry. It just makes you I don't know why I'm angry. I'm just pissed off at you right now.
I don't need groceries. I'll go buy meth.
But you're already skinny.
Yeah.
am in a probably little girl size 16 clothes right now. Like,
yeah, and
I'm skin and bones. Like, that's
you were
not
size
healthy.
what in the early days?
I was in a size probably 8 women's. I'll show you, like, I shouldn't be this skinny. This is how skinny I am right now. Like, it's sick. I can't stand to see myself naked. I can't stand for him to see me naked. Like, I can't. I feel, most girls like being skinny, but 150 pounds is healthy for me, I miss being healthy. When I went to treatment the first time, I started running, and that was my my meditation, and I was running all the time. Yes, very therapeutic, and I miss that. I miss life.
We're going to see the change. We're going to witness the change. We'll talk in a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks. We'll talk again. In a month or after that, and you'll feel your body getting back. You'll feel your self-esteem.
You both are very smart.
Absolutely. And thank you both so much for sharing. I mean, it's not easy. It takes a lot of courage to share. It takes a lot of courage. But by the same token, you'll be inspiring others, and then you'll encourage others because you guys can go. I mean, we try to convince people to say, I got this. I got this. We want you guys to have confidence that you got this, and you'll start to feel your brain shift where you feel back in control, and you've got it. Then, but
say that to yourself. I got this.
I got this.
All right.
I hope so.
Well, thank you both so much. Actually, you will be an inspiration, not just to yourself, but to others, and I appreciate you sharing.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks
for having me.
Okay.
Dr. Lakin is a board-certified family medicine doctor with an emphasis in addiction medicine and over 25 years of experience. For addiction recovery services in the Wichita area, please visit www.centerforchangeks.com or visit samhsa.gov for a national directory of resources and recovery centers in your area. You can also find these links in the podcast description. Thank you for listening to the Lakin Chronicles Road to Recovery podcast. And remember, you've got this.